Hey, I'm Callum, also known as Northern Dice, and I'm going to be giving you a video review of Deep Sea Adventure by Oink Games, a push-your-luck game for 2 to 6 players. So this is Deep Sea Adventure. The aim of the game is to traverse to the bottom of the ocean and collect as much treasure as you can before your oxygen runs out whilst competing against other players. The twist here, everyone's oxygen is shared. Can you do it? Let's have a look and see what I thought. So here is a mock setup for Deep Sea Adventure. The idea is that you are deep sea divers who could not afford a submarine each and are therefore put your money together to try and get some treasure. You're in competition though. So the idea is you will roll the dice, get a result and move based on that. So 4, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4. And then on your turn, if you are landing on one of these tokens that have got a dot on it, you are able to then choose whether to pick it up or not. So if I was yellow, I might be quite greedy and pick this one up. That would then go into my stockpile of treasure, which I cannot look at as of yet. Because there's a tile missing, I would have to replace it with one of these circular ones with an X on. And then take red's turn, get a 4 again, how convenient, because it means that I will go 1, 2, 3. I can't share a tile with another diver, so I've got to go to the next one. 4. I'm going to choose not to take one, and there's a reason to not take. Because on yellow's turn now, he's got 1 treasure, which means that he's carrying 1 weight. He's exhausting 1 extra oxygen each turn, and everyone has the same oxygen track that we all share. 1, so be 1, reduced by 1. If it was 2, reduced by 2. On top of that, yellow's rolls are now also reduced by 1 for the extra weight, so it's no longer a 3, it's now a 2. 1, 2. You can choose whether to take it or not. The other rule is that when you decide to turn back to head to the submarine, it is a definitive decision. You cannot go back on that. You are then heading backwards instead, trying to escape. You can only win and keep the treasure if you make it back to the submarine. If you are way down here and the track manages to get all the way down here, you are going to be in a very tight spot. You can choose to drop treasure, however, it's probably not going to be beneficial for the amount of depth that you've gone. The deeper you go, the more the tiles are worth. On top of that, any treasure that isn't collected when the oxygen runs out sinks to the bottom of the ocean in order for you to be saved. And it goes to the bottom here in stacks of 3, making it more valuable to travel to the bottom because these X's are also removed. So it's a shorter track with much greater reward. So the game runs over 3 rounds and it is a case of whoever has got the most treasure at the end of the game is crowned the Deep Sea Diver winner. Deep Sea Adventure is incredibly light, incredibly quick access, and this is just a mock setup. It isn't a case of 3 treasure in each variety. It would be determined by the number of players playing. And with up to 6 players, you've got a lot of scope for a lot of play. But with more players means more oxygen being used, means more time allocation for each player's turn. It becomes a much longer game, and it also becomes a much lower scoring game. What we really love about it is its ease of access. We've not played with anybody who hasn't been able to pick up the game and go, I get it. It takes a round or 2, I'll admit, but there's nothing about the game that screams technical, tactical. It is a case of you push your luck for how deep you're going to go based on everyone else's actions as well, and you get treasure. If you're able to get a lot of treasure, you're going to be in a really good place. The lower treasure is worth a lot less though, and there are some tokens which have a result of 0-1. Which means that you may go to here, grab that treasure, quickly sneak back, think that you are swimming because you're going to have the high score and result in nothing. The component quality of Deep Sea Adventure is phenomenal, as you would expect from most Oink games. It's incredibly light footweight, but I don't know if you can see just there. The card is all nice and thick, and it's really durable. Very easy to pick up, even with my quite stubby-handed fingers. And on top of that, everything feels robust. I actually love the visuals on it as well. Even though these are just strange shapes for the ocean, it's the colouring. It all fits into the theme of being in the ocean. Of course, the deeper you go into the ocean, the less light there is, the darker the colour. The track on the submarine, I think, is really quirky. They could have quite easily had just a rectangle, but instead they went for a submarine. And with all Oink games, the meeple are custom. And I know it takes a little bit of imagination with these ones in particular, but they look like little deep sea divers. This is a game we would choose to play with people who are not confident gamers, and is one that we would bring out with younger children as well, because everything is determined by a dice roll. No math relay is required, because if I roll a 3 and I've got 3 pieces of treasure, it is just a really easy case of 3 minus 3 is 0. There is that difficulty spike in the you push your luck too far, you aren't going to go anywhere. But because these dice are up to a maximum of 3 result on each, you can only get a roll of 6, but you can only get a minimal roll of 2. And that gives you a little bit of edge, because it means that even if you only picked up 1 treasure, you can always make some progress. It's only when you push your luck beyond that that you are going to be finding yourself stuck. The rules for this Oink game in particular were really easy to pick up and understand, and because, like all Oink games, it is language independent, you only need to know the rules once, and then you can teach anybody the game. There are lots of rule versions for different languages, but that's more to credit for Oink, because it means that it is universally playable. It isn't just an English-based game or a Japanese-based game from the developer's side. They have translated those rules to make it so that anybody can learn the game and anybody can play it. All Oink games are relatively different, and all of them play in a different way, and this is not our favourite Oink game, but that is not to say that it is not one that we don't love. As far as Push Your Luck goes, this is our favourite entry access game. We love this because it's easy for when we want to play with people who are quite competitive but can't quite get the grasp of many more heavy games, usually children for that matter. It's not a long game, and it never stays on the table longer than it needs to, and to be honest, it doesn't have to. Once you finish a round, you could say it's ended there, or you could take it to all 3 rounds. But quite often we found ourselves going beyond 3 rounds, and we'll end up playing 3-4 games, because it is a pick-up, put-down game. You can play a game in 15 minutes, and if you get the time spot, you can play a game in 10 minutes, which means that you could get 6 games out of an hour. And I promise you, that time absolutely flies with this. It does take a bit of getting used to, with all the little nitty bits, and putting it back in that box can be a bit of a pain sometimes. But in honesty, that's all forgiven for the actual component quality and its light footprint. I'm using 1/6 of my table for this, and that is with all the components sprawled about. When this is set up, it's just a straight line, and of course this doesn't have to coil. If you've not got much space, you can S really far round. We could even go like that. It's only a visual representation of going into the ocean. How you set the tiles up and tokens up is completely up to you. The colour variants are what determine where you're going. In honesty, it makes it a really, really tangible game and really easy to pick up and put down. I would definitely recommend Deep Sea Adventure as an Oink game, and I would probably recommend it as a starter game for anybody who just wants a quick game of something that's push your luck, edge your bets, and take on another player. I would not recommend this game to someone who is a hardcore gamer. I would not recommend it to someone who is looking for that next big tactical challenge. This is a nice, fun, light game, not a big, hardcore thinky game. That's not to say it's not worth the thinking, that's to say it might not give you the meat on the bone that you're expecting.